today, we have a very special series planned.
Oh, I thought you were going to say guest.
We have a very special series planned, and she's going to be answering some questions about what was going on this time last year. Well, a lot of questions I've been getting asked, number one, and number two, just like, my anniversary is coming up for my transplant, and I'm really excited and I'm doing well. So I think we should make a good video for this. Okay, perfect. Alright, so, Mommy, well, first of all, tell them who you are. Tell them who you are and like what you are.
I'm Jaycee's mom. My name is Danette. 15 years of her, and we had our second experience with transplantation a year ago, and it's not easy.
You guys did see her in a couple of videos before, like a little like snippets of her, but we've actually never gotten like a sit down with Mommy in a video. Okay. So I made up some questions a few days ago. They've literally been laying in my house, and everyone's been wanting to know the questions, and they have no idea. So this is going to kind of be on the spot.
Oh man.
Let's hope to my editing skills this doesn't turn out horrible. Now, also, these questions are going to be for everyone that I tell Mommy. I'm going to answer them to my sister. I'm going to answer them to my dad. I'm going to answer them to my grandparents. And so, we're going to see. There's a lot here, and if this goes into detail, it goes into detail. If it doesn't, then it's fine. My family, they're allowed to answer these questions however they want. I won't judge them on how they want to answer them. Some questions are harder to answer because you guys have to remember our state of mind that was going on at this time. Everyone was anxious, more of a depressed state, and we didn't really know what was going to happen. So some of these answers might be a little rough to like try to answer them. Yeah. All right. So number one. In your head, what was your perspective on what was going on with me this time last year?
Okay, so if we go back to that terrible time, I feel like I was kind of like a robot. You were bleeding every day. Every day. I just watched blood pour out of you from everywhere constantly. Mm-hmm. But I knew what it meant.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
So every time we went to the doctors or were admitted at our regular hospital, it became more and more apparent to me what the outcome was going to be. Nurses who loved you started, I could see it in their face, the sorrow.
Yeah, I started seeing it. And guys, this is the funny thing too, though, because like, I think we all didn't want to say it.
Nobody would say it.
Nobody would say it, but we all knew it. Like, we just like all knew what was happening and what was going down. But like, no one would just like actually like say it in reality, you know what I mean?
It was surreal. Like, I was like, when we would be discharged to come home, because there was really nothing hospitals could do, they would temporarily help, and nurses would be hugging,
like
saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, I'll see you next transfusion. Like, and
right.
They're looking at me like so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first time in all of the things that we went through, which was honestly a lot, that it really hit me that this is it. Like, I am literally watching her die every single day, and I couldn't sleep.
She would stay up to watch me like sleep to make sure like I was still like breathing. Like, I remember that too, because like I couldn't sleep in my own bed anymore, and I would sit out in the living room and I would lay on the recliner, right? I sit on the recliner, and obviously there was bloody noses and everything. You guys saw videos about that. And I remember Mom, I'd be like, Mom, why are you going to bed? She's like, I'm not tired. But I knew she was so tired, and I knew like deep down it was just to make sure like she was watching me, to make sure like everything was okay. And like at that time too, I was getting depressed. And when I'm depressed, nothing's good in the world. Like, in our house, like, nothing's good when I'm upset. So it was very hard for like everyone, I think, to get adjusted.
Yeah, everything started
like falling into place.
Being weird.
Yeah.
Like, just being like
off.
Surreal and off. And is this still a part of the question? Is there another question?
Well, yeah, well, Yeah, so, like, what was your feeling about it is, like, the next, like,
Oh my
question.
God,
Like, how were you feeling besides, like, me?
well, I started the grieving process, and, I tried to get in my head that this was going to happen, and how was I going to prepare the family, and how was I going to learn how to live, and figuring there's no way, like, I can't say it out loud, I can't talk to anybody because nobody believes it, and anybody that I try to, or even like the closest people to me, when I was trying to explain the severity of everything, they pretty much, I don't want to say,
Blew it off.
no, it wasn't like a blow off. It was kind of like a cry wolf. Like, there's been so many things over the past 15 years, and you almost passed on us so many times spontaneously.
Yeah, and that was the thing, though, because, like, it's kind of process so stupid.
It was kind of like, oh, well, another Jaycee story.
Yeah, like, basically.
And I was just, like, beside myself, because I knew that this was it, and I started hearing doctors talk, and them saying, this child has end-stage liver failure. And I'm like, what's end stage? Like, what do you mean end stage? Like,
the end.
The end? Like, no. Like, we've battled cancer. We've battled rejection. We've battled living with no intestines. We battled all that. Like, what do you mean? Like, it didn't compute in my head. As much as my brain knew it, my heart wouldn't let it in. So I kind of just became numb, and I was like, no, we're going to keep on continuing, and we're going to keep on keeping on until we can't anymore. And so I think this time last year, since it's November, I got the Christmas tree up, and I put it up.
I was mad too, because I don't like having Christmas before Thanksgiving. I know everyone's going to go at me, but, like, for real, I don't. I think Thanksgiving should be Thanksgiving without Christmas up, and I knew, though, why we were doing it, and I remember sitting there because I was in pain, and my mom's holding Ollie, and she's dancing around to Christmas music, and my grandmom, she's going, la, 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 and she's singing, and my sister, Devin, you guys are going to see her next video, she was, like, all happy there's Christmas music, and she's running to the store getting Christmas decorations, my dad's putting up lights in the house, like, everything we were just doing to try to distract ourselves. And I think really Christmas, though, like, coming up was, like, a big thing. And then Thanksgiving was just, like, horrible. Like, because we had a bad Thanksgiving. Good food, but, like, bad Thanksgiving.
Well, it just, as the days progressed, you just got weaker and weaker.
Yeah, like, every day was worse and worse and worse.
And we had an appointment before Thanksgiving. Just pretty much brought me in a room and told me the inevitable. And they gave me paperwork for advanced directives, which is something that you have somebody would fill out, and it was geared towards a teenager, and it's what would you want your funeral to be like, and it was all these questions, and I was to give it to Jaycee. So the social worker had given me one for all of us in the family, and we were all going to fill it out on Thanksgiving at Thanksgiving dinner. And I didn't know how to prepare the rest of the family to actually do this, because I had to kind of make it like this is something we all should do and all should prepare for.
Yeah.
And they basically told me, like, we'll do everything we can and we're not going to give up on her, but she can't get sick. If one little cold could have threw it all off, one little virus, anything, she wouldn't have been able to make it through after the new year. So,
and remember, guys, we're, like, talking about, like, this was, like, Thanksgiving a couple days after. Like, this was, like, insane, like, how much, like, it was all
so
together.
they were like, unless them organs come in, and all I'm thinking is this is almost impossible. How are these organs going to come in when she has everything against her?
Elaborate on that for them.
Her blood type was odd, as she was A positive. It's not odd, but it's not likely that you're going to find a donor
that quick.
We had to have a donor that was a perfect match, that was A positive blood type, that was her size, that she's very little, so that limits everything. Somebody that had the same exact antibodies as her, and that's another thing. Those are very important, because that keeps you from, like, less likely to reject.
I remember I already went through rejection once. I am not doing that again.
And that was a major deal. Like,
Yeah.
to find those 3 things. And she was going to be a very complicated retransplant because she not only had a transplant before, but she had all her transplant removed, which means they would have to figure out, it's easier to transplant something that's already there. Like, while you're there, take out the bad heart, put the new heart in.
It sounds stupid, but it's true. It's easier for the surgeons.
But there was
and the
nothing
doctors.
there for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, nothing. So it was hard to attach all this new stuff into her. Like, I guess, vein to vein, and in order to cooperate together. So that was another thing that was against her. So, like, she had everything against her not to get this transplant. So I kind of, like, had in my head, like, well, we're asking for the impossible to happen.
Yeah, it really was. It was, like,
and
the actual impossible.
How are we actually going to get this to happen? Like, nothing in my power could make this happen. Like, I needed divine intervention. And I really felt that I wasn't worthy of divine intervention. So.
Yeah. And I think everyone with these questions are going to have different answers. Like, my mom's, like, the one who really understands every single thing the doctors are saying, what's happening. Like,
I don't know how to translate it well.
Yeah, she don't know how to translate it well. And that's the thing is, like, it's just so hard because you guys, like, it's not living my life out. I try to explain it to you guys the best possible in these videos. But the night of the call, how did you feel? How were you feeling, like, that day? Like, the day before, like, the day we got the call.
Like, before the call came in?
Yeah, like, yeah.
Well, I can remember that we were having conversations. Grandmom and Grandpop were coming over every day because they knew what was happening. Once
that started, I knew things started going downhill, like, quick.
And Grandmom would be sitting next to you, and she was making sure that you were okay in her eyes, and you could tell she was exhausted, and I was exhausted. We all were.
Everyone was.
And you were complaining, and, like, you got to remember, you were breaking fibulas, and you were fracturing things, so you were constantly in pain, and there was blood constantly coming out of you, out of your ostomy, out of your mouth, out of your nose, and so you were yellow like a highlighter, and so you were complaining about hurting. So Grandma would be rubbing your legs, and I'd be getting your medicine together, and I was waiting because you were still TPN dependent. I was waiting for your nurse to come to help put your TPN together. Now, I can do the TPN, but I had these wonderful nurses that would come every day.
Shout out to Rob and Sara.
Miss you guys.
For
Love
real.
you. I'm glad you're not here, but you guys really helped me, because the last round of Jaycee being on TPN all the time, even though I've been doing it for 15 years, I kind of knew that this was never ending, and not that it was hard for me. It just was something, when you have something that you have to do all the time, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to do it at a certain time every day for 45 minutes, or, it's just no way to explain the dread. And I could feel it in my bones, the dread. And it's like, if this was my job, and it was my job because I love my daughter. Yeah. But if I was getting paid the big bucks to do this every single day, or I knew, like, it just was something that I didn't want it to take over me. I didn't want this dread to be bestowed on Jaycee, like, because it wasn't her fault. Like, so I didn't want to be taking it out on her. So the social workers at the hospital told me, you need to get somebody to come in and do this and just take that little bit of weight off and do it and thank God I did, because I met the most wonderful people who were involved in our life and this story, and I'm grateful to them.
You know what I think was good too, because of course they were nurses, and they had every night they had, like, a form that they had to fill out for me, and it was like how I was feeling that day or whatever, and I think it was really good for, number one, for them to keep track. And number 2, like, they were checking my temperature, my blood, like,
Yeah, they
my
were doing
blood
your
pressure.
vitals.
Yeah, like, they would do all that, and they would do, like, once those nights of, like, really bad, we would do it, like, twice.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that my blood level was staying,
Blood pressure.
my blood pressure was staying a little higher than zombie-like.
Right, because you were losing so much blood.
Yeah, and, like, I was losing so much blood.
And you gotta remember, we were also going to the hospital getting transfusions at least 2 to 3 times a week at this point.
And those were the days I felt worst. Like, because I would be just in so much pain after infusions.
You were getting infusions of that. You were getting infusions of albumin. So this was all going on at the same time, and nothing made you feel good except for drinking Pellegrino.
Yeah, for real. The only happiest I was when I had my Pellegrino, and it was the only thing that would quench
Her thirst. I think
Quench
get
my
the taste
thirst.
of the blood out of her mouth.
Yeah, because all I had was blood and, like, that iron taste in my mouth, and it was kind of gross and, like, not that good. And when you have liver disease,
I think it settled her stomach too.
yeah,
in
like,
order,
it definitely did.
Yeah, like I think it was just a combination of the
Wait,
mineral.
what was my liver called?
Hyperportal tension something.
Yeah, when you have that hyperportal tension, can't say it right, but I guess it's like stopping flow into like your liver, and oh my god, I guess it makes you so thirsty, and all I would just do is drink and drink and drink. And when I was drinking, just more blood would come out. So it was like a never-ending process of just like drinking, coming out, drink, coming out, drink, coming out, and I would just drink Pellegrino because that was the only thing that like made it not so thirsty for 5 minutes, maybe.
Oh, and I want to shout out to the Secret Santa that sent those 2 cases, cases of Pellegrino, and we figured out who you are, and we will be getting in contact with you. There.
Yeah.
We figured it out. Sneaky. So, go ahead.
Okay, so next question. When the call came, what were your thoughts? Like when they called, because they called.
Okay, so
Mommy.
yeah, so that night, Nurse Sara was here, and she was doing your vitals and everything, and you started out of the blue were complaining that your head was burning.
Yeah.
And me and Sara kept looking at each other like, what do you mean your head's burning? And you're like, I can't take it. Like, my hair's burning.
It just like hurt.
It just feels like it's like sunburnt, like inside. And Sarah's like, but you're not hot. And she was taking her temperature and everything. Her vitals were okay. And it was just a bizarre thing. And she's like, oh, when I get this transplant, I'm cutting all my hair off. I can't.
Because that was the thing. I kept itching my hair. Like, more I moved my hair around, it kept burning more.
Like, I'm going to cut all this hair off. And in my head, I'm going, this transplant's never happening.
I know.
Like, but she talked about it as if it was. Like,
yeah, I did.
And
I did.
I was like, and I'm thinking, okay, Jay, and I'm thinking, oh, here goes a new symptom now. How are we going to deal with this symptom?
Yeah.
So, as soon as she said that, when I get this transplant, my phone rang, and my cell phone, and it said private caller. So Sara goes, there they go, they're calling, and I was like, nah, it would say Pittsburgh. It wouldn't say private caller.
Yeah. They vote your mommy's ring phone for like private numbers or like random callers is what was it?
Cashmere by Led Zeppelin.
By Cashmere from Led Zeppelin. And oh my god, every time that phone rang and I heard it, I'd be like, Mom, wouldn't that be funny if it was the call? Like, every single time it would come on, I'd be like, that's going to be the call. Never was until that night of the call. Good.
So, I go and answer the phone, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, hello? And they're like, Miss Park? We're calling for the parent of Jacqueline Park. And I turned around and I looked at Sara, and I'm like, this is me. And they're like, we just wanted to know, hi, my name is so-and-so. We just wanted to know if Jacqueline has been feeling okay. Has she been sick? And my eyes got wide because I knew.
I heard them. I have very, very good hearing, and I heard them on my mom's phone. She wasn't that far from me, and I heard them asking her. And that's one of the first questions they ask you when you get the call. And I knew right there. I looked at my nurse Sara, and Sara dropped everything. She was like...
And I just looked over at Sara, and my heart started pounding. And I just felt like my ears, like,
ringing.
start to ring. And there's where you walk in our house, we have a recliner next to my my couch, and I can remember just like flopping like onto the recliner, like sitting down, like, am I hearing right? Am I making this up? Like, is this just fabricating in my head? And I'm like, no. I was like, what are you telling me? What are you telling me? Like, this is all I kept saying in my head. Like, what are you telling me? And she's like, well, we possibly have a match for Jacqueline. And I'm like, what? And she's like, we possibly have a match. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but I just want you, she's like, do you have a pilot ready? And I'm like, yeah, as a matter of fact, just yesterday we got everything under control, and that's another story for itself. So she's like, okay, well, start packing some stuff. She's like, I'm going to call you in a couple hours. The doctor's working on something. We're waiting on a couple labs. So I'm like, okay. So I hang up with her, and I said, you're really going to call me back? She's like, I will call you back. So I'm like, oh my God. So I hang up the phone. Jaycee's hysterical crying.
Because I knew what was happening.
Hysterical. It can't breathe. Sara starts tearing up and crying. I'm hugging her. She's like, is there anything I could do? Can I take you to the airport? And I'm like, no. I was like, I need to stop. I got to think about all this. I'm like, Sara, thank you so much. And like, I'm hugging and kissing. And I'm like, I'll call you. I'll let you know everything. And like, so she leaves, and I felt so bad because of the way, like, I don't think,
it was just like,
it was surreal. So
for real.
I get on the phone. No, Jaycee gets on the phone because she gets on the phone. I call her dad because he's at his house. And I call him in the kitchen, and I'm like, Rob, we got the call. And I can hear that he's cooking something. And from my perspective, anyway, this is how I hear it.
Yeah.
And I hear that he's cooking something. And I'm like, we got the call. And he's like, blank, blank, blank. And I can't repeat. So I hear the pan fly across the kitchen or into a sink or something. And I'm like, get here, I'll be right there. So I hang up with him, and Jaycee's trying to dial my parents' sister. And I must have like flew my glasses off so I can't see. And I'm looking at my phone, and I'm going, and I write, get home. But it didn't say get home. It said something like, whatever.
Right.
I don't even know. It was like a bunch of letters. So I hang up with her. I run into the bedroom because I'm packing, right? So
everyone was here within 10 minutes at my house. Everything just started
in the
rolling
meantime,
up.
so Jaycee's like, I'm so scared. And she started hyperventilating. And so she calls her doctor.
I called my doctor at what time? It was 9 o'clock at night.
Her doctor, not her transplant doctor, but her doctor that we've had forever, Dr. Rab.
Yeah. He's a true MVP.
She's had him. He's been her like super pediatrician for her whole life. He never gave up on her, and we have a lot of respect for him for that. Thank God. Because
I love him so much.
when nobody knew what MMIHS was or cared, he knew to take it one step at a time, and he kept her with us all these years.
Yeah.
And so she called him, and I can hear her going, and she's crying, trying to explain to him, and he's not understanding her. So he's like, put your mom on the phone.
Yeah, he's telling me. He's like, all right. He's like, I know, because he know. He was like, you got the call. I was like, yeah, and he was like, all right. He's like, put your mom on the phone. He's like, calm down. He's like, first of all, he's like, it might not work. And I was like, I know. And he's like, put your mom on the phone. So she went on the phone.
So he's like, all right, guys. He was like, this could be it. And I'm just like, I can't believe it. I said, this can't be for real. And he's like, it's for real. He was like, do me a favor. He was like, give her some of her anxiety medicine.
He was like, pop her up some pills.
He was like, then give her some of her anxiety medicine, and hopefully, she'll sleep the trip. And I was like, yeah. I was like, it's a good idea. I thought about it anyway. I was like, I'll let you know what's happening. I'm sorry she called you like this. I was like, she just needed to tell you. And,
I had to.
And he was like, all so gracious about it. Thank God, because I don't know how I would feel if somebody called me out of the blue after hours. So then that happened. And so then everybody started pouring into the house. Parents, her dad, her sister came flying in. What's going on? I'm like, we got the call. She's like, I knew it.
Yeah.
But she'll tell you her story. Then I just started packing. and I was waiting for them to call me back. And in my head, like, this is too good to be true. They just gave me a few weeks left, pretty much, with her.
Girl.
All these things that were against her. There's no way that this is it. There's no way in the world that this is it. But I was hoping that it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, we'll see what happens. Let me just, I guess, go with it. So now we're waiting. So they call back and they said, the doctor said he's waiting on one more. This is now like an hour later. Doctor said he has to wait on one more thing and he'll let you know. We're going to call you back again. So I'm waiting. I'm like, oh, what do we do? I was like, what do we do? So we waited here.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally called like an hour and a half later and said, you don't have to fly. If you want to drive, you can. So I was like, thank God. He's like, we got plenty of time.
It was the longest hour and a half of my life. Like, honestly. My God.
So, okay, we can drive. She said, yeah. She's like, just give me like another half hour to wait on this one test result we're waiting on, and then I'll let you know when you can leave. So I was like, okay. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, so everybody's running around getting last minute stuff. We're getting stuff for the truck. We're trying to figure out who's driving. Do I need to drive? Should her dad just drive? Are we borrowing a car? Or like, what are we doing? Like, we're trying to get everything like together, because now we know we only have a certain amount of hours to get to Pittsburgh, which takes 6 hours on a regular basis, on a regular day. So we're like, do we call state troopers? Do we tell them that we're going to be going above the speed limit on the turnpike? The car, they called us and they said, it's a go. Come on down. So we were like, oh my God.
Come on down.
Got in the car. It was like 10 o'clock at night. 10:30 by the time we got in the car.
I don't know. I was zonked.
We just packed everything in her dad's truck, and she laid down in the back of the car.
Yeah.
And we flew. And I'll never forget, because that night in particular was a beautiful night.
It was.
The first transplant, we drove through Hurricane Dan to Jaycee, and that was the worst. This night was beautiful.
It was clear as day.
The sky was so clear, and the moon was so full, and it lit up the sky. And I kept saying, and it followed us all the way to Pittsburgh. Like,
yeah, it was.
And
like,
it was like in front of us, and I kept saying, like, wow, it's like following the star. It was crazy. It was just there, and it was so bright the whole
It was like following a star to a miracle.
Right. I know it sounds crazy. But
I know, but seriously.
It must sound insane, or these people, or what. I'm telling you, it
was
my witness, hand to God, that there was, it was just,
there's something.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre, to say the least. And I've done that drive now.
At least like 50 times.
Yes. And I don't remember it taking that long to get there.
No, it didn't. I remember stopping once. We stopped we did stop once. We stopped once for the 6 hours or however long we took, probably so much faster. And I remember getting off, and I went into the restroom, whatever, and smells are what really made me feel like so gaggy. And I remember walking, and I was like, Mom, I was like, we gotta get outside now. Like, I feel like I'm just gonna like bleed like everywhere. And I was like, Mom, I'm still bleeding. Still everything, and the whole thing's still going over here. And I remember getting back in the car, and Daddy's like, come on. And we get there, and like, I opened my eyes, and my dad was like, we're here. And I was like, oh my God, like, that's when it hit me, like, whoa.
And I told him, I said, just drop us off at the ER, like, in the ER entrance. Park. I was like, go park. I was like, I don't even want to waste another minute. Like, I don't even know.
I think Daddy's main priority at that moment was, like, getting me comfortable.
Yeah.
To where, like, I wasn't in, like, panic mode. Because I was just, like, full on, like, panic attack where I was like, It was freaky. Like, I was freaking out.
Yeah. Well, we all are, kind of, in our own way.
But then you also gotta remember, I had that state of mind where I was like, well, what if I don't wake up from this? Like, this is my last time being in a car with my parents. Like, this first, like, you know what I mean? Like, those were, like, when you're anxious, when you deal with stuff like that, that's what's running through your head, and it's scary, but it's like you just got hope for the best. Like and that was the thing too. Is like, listen, I could have never went on the list. I could have said no. I could have said, I just want to live out until this is over. But we decided, you know what, we're gonna try and do this, and it happened. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like it happened. You know what I'm saying? I said that I'm surprised I'm so stupid on camera.
I don't know.
But when I came out, like when you first saw me out of that, like out of surgery, like what were your first thoughts? Like, were you like?
Do you want to know my thoughts as you were going in, or like?
Yeah, but quick, both.
Okay, so when we get to the hospital, they brought us back to do like a workup, like to do the workup. Like all these doctors came flying in and blah blah blah, and I finally see one from her team, and he's like, we're gonna do this. I had to sign my life away. I'm just like,
I just like,
I understand. So literally, every time Jaycee ever had a procedure, which was in the hundreds, and she would be put under anesthesia, I always go back with her since she's the newborn baby. And so, which means I go into the OR that they're going to be working on her with, and the anesthesiologist will then administer the anesthesia, and I would watch her fall asleep.
Holds me.
I hold her till she falls asleep.
She holds me like on my back.
So we have a whole routine, and the routine goes something like this. She's on.
So I'm like freaking out. I'm like shaking because I'm in a cold room.
She's on the bed. I'm in a bunny suit.
And I'll be like, ma.
And I'm holding her.
And she'll hold me like this, and I'm like,
And I hold her, and I tell her.
I'm like this.
I'll tell her it's gonna be okay, and you're gonna be fine, and I'll be here when you wake up, and Jesus is holding you.
And what do I always?
And the whole time she's like, I love you, mommy, I love you, daddy.
Yeah.
I love grandma and grandpa, and I love Devin, and I love Ollie, and I love. And when she was little, she used to say, I love my Barbies, and I love my this, and she would say anything that
could come out of my mouth
that she could love. She would say,
it.
tell them I love them, tell them I love them, and I'd be like, it's okay, and she's crying, and I'd be like, all right, and then she'd be out, and I would always say to the doctors, always, and they could tell you this, I always go, take good care of her. I'll be right outside. And they're like, we will. And I go, I know. And I walk out and my heart sinks.
Yeah.
And I go, because she feels so lifeless. So this time, when we wheeled her back, we did the whole routine. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Jaycee, no more bleeding.
Oh my God, I remember that. I don't remember most of it.
I was like, we're going to do this. I was like, you won't be bleeding anymore. I was like, you won't be. I said, you'll have all new insides. I was like, this is going to be great. So when she went out, I remember just like walking out into the waiting room like a zombie, just like, that's it. Like, this is it. Like, life is going to change forever. And, that's how I went out. Like, and so we waited, and it was 18 hours of torture.
It was a long surgery.
And she had, I think it was something, it was like,
it's in the transplant video, go watch it.
Yeah, she had like 17 blood transfusions during it. She had 14 fresh frozen plasma infusions during. I know that they had mentioned that you lost twice your body and blood during it. Like, we waited in that waiting room, and I remember coming back, and like we would see like a doctor here or there, and they looked exhausted, and I mean, I was just so scared, and they were saying certain things were difficult and certain things were going great, and I was just like, oh my God, I just want to see her. Mm-hmm. So then finally, they let us in the, she was in recovery in ICU. They brought her right to intensive care. And honestly, I can't.
Do you remember or no?
I mean, I remember they told me that she was open. And I said, what do you mean? And they said we couldn't close her stomach.
Do you think this would be an alright time to show that picture to them? I'll put a disclaimer.
Maybe. Yeah.
All
and
right.
I said, what do you mean open? And they said, well, her body hasn't had any insides, well, her intestine at all, for so long, and she's so little. that we have to wait for the swelling to go down and everything before we can close her up. So she's going to be open for a while. And I knew that she was going to be like in an induced coma sleep for days until, you know, all of that. So, you know, it was like, okay. So I didn't see it right away, but I saw her.
It was,
And
did you say all the yellow?
She was, she was all bloated. And like her face was bloated. Of course, everything was bloated. Not from steroid use. It was just from being under anesthesia all that time. And it was just amazing. And I remember looking at her face and I'm going,
whoa.
She's not yellow. Like, she's very little yellow. Like, she wasn't completely pale.
No.
She was just like, you could just see like the yellow draining from her face. And I'm like, wow. I was like, this is, because the liver was
the liver was working.
So, yeah, that was basically the afterwards and just being so tired from being up 11 hours. I gotta remember, because from the night before.
Right, guys, like that, like, this is so much, but this is
and
all,
from the
like,
weeks prior, not sleeping, because I'm sitting straight up staring at her most of the night. Like, I would wake up with my neck, and I'd be like every time she would go, or something, it was just like, I'd wake up. And, so that was weeks prior, so I was just, like, utterly exhausted. And there's just tons and tons of machines, and drains all over, and tubes everywhere, and yeah.
It was a tough process.
It is. I don't know, but
all right. Last question. For Mommy, if you could meet not only this donor but both of my donors and their families, would you?
I don't know. I want to, but I don't.
Who would you not want to meet? Like their mom?
No, I want to thank them for the selfless gift that they gave. I mean, it's an amazing gift that they... Yeah, it's such a hard
process
question. Because as much as I want to thank them for the miracle that they gave me and the greatest gift that you could give somebody, and I'm such an advocate for organ donation, I want them to know that they're our hero.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I would want them to see you. I would want them to see what this actually did.
Right.
Like what... I still can't believe it. I think I'm still in shock.
Yeah, it is. It's shocking.
I'm not right. I'm not good. No, honestly, like, it took such a big toll on me. I mean, not your fault. Of course. I'm just saying, like, it's just, I'm still not there yet, I think. Because it's one of those, like, people say, oh, I won't believe it until I see it type thing. And I'm seeing it, and I don't believe it. You know, like, I see her every day, and I go, something's not right.
Right, and it's like, I say it to myself.
But it is.
Yeah.
And I go, when's it going to happen? What's happening?
Yeah.
And
we do that all the time.
And I don't want to be that way because, you know, but you can't.
It's our state of mind.
And you don't understand. Yeah, we're positive people normally, and
we try to be.
It's just that when you, for so long,
right,
fighting, and you fight, it's like, how much more, and it's like somebody telling you, don't worry about it. You don't have to fight.
Yeah, I know. It's like, huh?
Wait, what?
I know. It's like part of your routine.
What do you mean you don't have to fight anymore? What do you mean I'm not getting up and fighting anymore? What do you mean I don't? Like, what do you mean she's not bleeding? What do you mean that she's not?
It's
like, I don't even understand how, like, we're here. And it sounds insane and it sounds stupid, actually. It's just, there's something in here that you can't, once you're conditioned to uncondition that is really
hard.
Big process. And but that's another story for another time, I guess.
Yeah. All right, well.
And that's everything.
Yeah.
just register to be an organ donor. It's important. It really is. Because without it, I wouldn't have this face. And I love this face.
Thank you, Mom.
I love you.
Okay. So, thank you for today's video. And, of course, leave a like and subscribe.